Darwin, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me on the show.
Not at all. Let's kick off with that, actually, because according to the Telegraph piece this morning, £8 million a year spent on interpreters for people who speak nearly 90 different languages and apparently can't understand any English. Well, I'm sorry, if you can't understand English, why are you getting any benefits?
Yeah, well, I think I quite agree with you, Mike. And when we think about this is £8 million in a single year. The contract is meant to be over 3 years and cost over £23 million. And when we're looking at some of the calls that are being made, for example, I saw that 44 of the calls over the last 3 years have been made by people who speak Mirpuri, which is a language spoken by only 500,000 people across the entire planet. And so I do think that some of your viewers are rightly going to ask, we've chipped in our whole lives, is this really what our tax money should be spent on first and foremost?
Well, it's rather ironic, isn't it, that you've managed to find a language I'd never heard of and a people that I probably don't know. But what we do know is that at least we've got some of them here claiming benefits.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, I think this is only the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we at the Taxpayers Alliance have done research in the past about translation services in the NHS trusts as well. And what that revealed is over a 3-year period in NHS trusts, over £113 million was also being spent on translation services for those that can't speak English. And so I do think that there needs to be a look into how much we're actually spending across the entire public service sector on this, because fundamentally this is taxpayers' money, and we're not talking about small change here. The average household in this country will pay over £1 million in tax in their entire lifetime. Right. So what we're talking about here is entire lifetimes worth of tax being spent just on translation services alone.
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely mad, isn't it? Meanwhile, and I suppose a step in the right direction, you might say, benefit claimants may be forced to open up their bank accounts to the government under plans being explored by ministers to crack down on fraud. I'm quite surprised in a way that this hasn't been possible before.
Yeah, and I think it's about time it happens as well, because when we look at the amount of fraud and error within the Department for Work and Pensions, it's astronomical, and fundamentally it's only going up as well. In the latest year we have available, the amount lost in fraud and error by the Department for Work and Pensions is almost £10 billion. Now, when we're talking about, for example, increasing defence spending or increasing health spending or more for our schools, this is a simple way to do it before we pick the pockets of taxpayers yet again.
Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, the problem is they're saying that they're going to cut £5 billion from the benefits budget. I'm not sure where they're going to look for that, but have you got any clues?
I mean, that is the issue, is that we're hearing a lot about how much they want to get in, but we're not hearing how they're actually going to possibly achieve that. I fully support cracking down on fraud within the Department for Work and Pensions, as I would cracking down on fraud across any sector within the public sector. But fundamentally, we need to hear details about it, not just a press release, because ultimately it's going to be actions which saves taxpayers' money, not press releases.
Yeah, exactly right. And I mean, meanwhile, I mean, they keep talking about having to raise more funds because inevitably, no matter how much they crack down on benefit fraud, no matter how much they crack down on this, that and the other, they are a very, very thirsty and hungry government for public money, and they give it away so readily. 18 billion to the Chagos Islands scenario. You know, they're talking about giving £4.5 billion more to Ukraine. They're talking about, you know, ramping up all sorts of services in the NHS, which is going to cost more billions of pounds. So inevitably, they're going to be coming after people for more tax at some point, aren't they?
I mean, that's the worry, especially with the spring statement coming up next month, is that they're going to come back for more. I mean, the last budget has set us on a path towards a record high tax burden in this country. And my fear is that we're constantly talking about how we can squeeze ever more out of taxpayers who are already hard pressed, given that there's a cost of living crisis with Bank of England interest rates being high, inflation on the rise as well. And what I fear that we don't ever talk about that much in this country is how we're actually going to crack down on spending which isn't delivering frontline services, which is ultimately what taxpayers are paying their taxes for in the first place.
Well, exactly right. Well, we have to keep a very close eye on them. You guys must be busier than ever, but we're always grateful to you, Darwin. Thank you very much indeed. Darwin Friend, Taxpayers Alliance there, keeping his eye on exactly what it is that this government is doing, because we've got to watch very carefully precisely how much money they're going to be trying to take out of our pockets. They keep saying, oh, we're going to put more money into your pockets and we're going to make you better off, working people better off. No, you can't just keep saying it.